Today we're going to be talking about changing all database columns from a not null setting to a null setting. And let's quickly talk about the problem description here. So we have a source system that's upstream of us. We have a target system that we have admin control over. We only have read access on the source system, so pretty much all we can do is select data and pull data over. On the source system, when we try to use the script as create in order to see the table layout and be able to copy that and put it on our target side, we'll often get an error message because we only have read access on that source system and we can't run that command. So how do we get the schema over to the target side and get that set up? So a lot of times what we do is use a link server connection, do a select top 1000 star from the source server into the target table and get it that way. And that all works pretty good until we start checking the two tables, the target table against the source table, and we realize many of the null settings on the target table were set to not null, while on the source side they were null. So why does that happen? So the reason that happens is because when you're only selecting, say, 1,000 records out of a 1,000,000 record table, you may get 1,000 records that have no nulls in them. So when the table gets created on the target side, SQL assumes that we're not going to see any nulls in this table here forward because the 1,000 records that helped create this had no nulls. So that is where we start to have problems when we set up the SSI package, eventually start dumping data into that target table. We'll eventually have a null come through on various columns, and it will throw this error that I have listed at the bottom. So what do we do to fix that? So my solution is to try to create a procedure that actually loops through the database and actually changes all these not nulls to nulls on the target side. Because really on the target side, all we're trying to do is bring in all the data. We don't want to be restrictive. We just want to get matching data at the end of the day on the target side that matches the source side. In my procedure, the only column I'm not going to mess with is the very first column, which in my data is usually the primary key column, and I don't want to change that or try to change that. So let's take a look at the actual SQL code. So real quickly, I'm going to set up some test tables in my test DB, and I'm going to show you I got 3 source tables I'm going to create, and the settings on throughout the source tables are going to be null on pretty much every column. So I'm going to create these 3, and I'm going to drop in records, a series of records into those tables initially. Most of the records will be filled in completely, but there'll be a few that the very 6th record on each table will have nulls. Let's go ahead and run this. So now I have my source tables and I have those populated, and I'm going to do pretty much the same thing. I'm going to create 3 target tables that are identical, except I pretty much went through and manually said make all these not null to try to simulate what I was talking about with the select top 1000. So I create my target tables, and now I'm going to insert the exact same records that I inserted into the source. I'm going to insert into the target tables, and that's where you have these errors thrown. And we'll just take a quick look at let me hit refresh. Take a quick look at the target tables, and you will see the not null pretty much throughout. Now let's take a look at the procedure. So let me go ahead and drop the procedure real quick, and then I'm going to let it be created. And now it's created. This procedure, one thing I'll point out about this procedure, it relies on SQL Server 2012 built-in procedure right here to help gather the schema data So if you're not running 2012, this may cause problems for you. Just want to point that out. The procedure has 2 loops. The first loop goes and grabs all the table schema data for the database in focus and the column schema data and sticks that in a temp table. And then the second loop builds an alter statement per column, and it sets the not null or null setting to null, and then it executes that alter statement, and it loops to the next column, and it loops through every single column until it's complete. So at the end, you should have all your not nulls turned into null settings. So let's execute this real quick. I am passing in the parameter testDB, which is the name of the database I want in focus. And we see that runs. So let's go back over here. Let's refresh our tables. We just saw that the target tables had not nulls throughout, and you're going to see now they have null throughout. And that's pretty much it. Thank you so much for joining me. Please subscribe to my channel, and I will post a link to the files so you can get to those and run this on your own system. Thanks so much.